The first lie is rarely spoken. It is performed. Someone listens carefully. They remember what matters to you. They notice what makes you feel admired, what makes you feel guilty, and what you are frightened of losing. Then they construct the person you were hoping to meet. Not because they understand you, because understanding you gives them leverage. Psychologists group 3 traits around this kind of behaviour: narcissism, Machiavellianism, psychopathy. Together, they are called the Dark Triad. But the 3 names matter less than the chain they can create. One trait provides the entitlement, one provides the strategy, and one weakens the guilt that might otherwise make the person stop. The question is not whether the 3 traits create monsters. Most people carrying some of them will never become violent. The real question is quieter. What happens when another human being stops being a person and becomes an opportunity? This is the Unquiet Record, and tonight we are examining how manipulation actually works. The term Dark Triad entered psychological research in 2002. It did not describe 3 identical personalities, and it was never intended as an online diagnosis. The traits overlap, but each contributes something different. The easiest way to understand them is not as 3 villains. It is as 3 parts of the same mechanism. The motive, the method, and the missing break. The first part is narcissism, but not the version usually found in online arguments. Narcissism is now used to describe almost anyone considered selfish, a difficult employer, an unfaithful partner, someone who posts too many photographs of themselves. But vanity is not the central issue. The darker form of narcissism begins with entitlement. The belief that ordinary rules should bend around one particular person. They do not simply want recognition. They feel deprived when recognition is not given. They do not simply dislike criticism. They experience it as an attack on the identity they have constructed. That identity must be protected. Failure, therefore, requires an explanation, and the explanation is rarely them. The colleague sabotaged the project. The partner was not supportive enough. The audience was too stupid to understand. The rules were unfair. Responsibility moves outwards. Credit moves inward. And over time, everyone nearby is assigned a role. Admirer, rival, obstacle, or audience. But entitlement alone is clumsy. A person can believe they deserve everything and still fail to obtain it. To turn entitlement into control, they need the second trait: Machiavellianism. Machiavellianism is not simply lying. Most people have lied. It is not even the same as manipulation. Most people have tried to influence someone. The difference is how the person sees relationship. A highly Machiavellian individual may view trust as weakness, morality as negotiable, and other people as pieces that can be moved. They do not need to dominate the room. They may barely speak. Instead, they watch. Who wants praise? Who fears confrontation? Who feels excluded? Who knows something valuable? The information is stored, not because the person is interested, because it may become useful. They flatter one person, plant doubt in another, carry carefully altered information between them, then stand back as the conflict grows. When both sides become confused, the manipulator offers clarity. When trust collapses, they offer loyalty. When the damage appears, they offer rescue. The solution arrives from the same person who helped create the problem. And that is why Machiavellian manipulation can be difficult to recognize. The lie is rarely the whole operation. It is one move inside a much longer game. Narcissism says, I deserve more. Machiavellianism answers, here is how to take it. But most people still possess something that complicates the plan. Guilt, fear, attachment, the awareness that another person is being harmed. This is where the third trait enters, psychopathy. Few psychological words carry more baggage. Popular culture presents the psychopath as emotionless, brilliant, violent, and almost impossible to deceive. Reality is less dramatic. Psychopathy is not a standalone diagnosis in the main psychiatric diagnostic manual. It is also not simply another word for antisocial personality disorder. Researchers use it to describe traits that can include callousness, shallow emotion, low remorse, impulsivity, and exploitation. Not everyone with psychopathic traits becomes violent, and not every violent person is psychopathic. The most important issue is empathy. Empathy is not one simple switch. A person may recognize fear without feeling compelled to relieve it. They may understand pain without experiencing it as a reason to stop. They see the wound, but the wound carries less moral weight. That can be more dangerous than emotional blindness. Someone who cannot read fear may manipulate badly. Someone who recognizes it but feels little concern may know exactly where to apply pressure. Replace the three traits together. Narcissism supplies the justification, Machiavellianism supplies the plan, psychopathy weakens the restraint. I deserve it. I know how to get it. I do not care what it costs you. That is the Dark Triad at its most destructive. But it still does not announce itself. There is no uniform, no facial expression, no sentence that proves someone possesses it. The pattern appears through behaviour. And manipulation often begins with something that feels remarkably positive. Attention. The person asks questions. They appear fascinated by your experiences. They remember small details. They mirror opinions. They create the feeling that you have finally met someone who understands you completely. The connection can develop unusually quickly, but the first objective may not be affection. It may be information. What do you need? What embarrasses you? Who do you trust? Where are your boundaries? Then comes the first test. A small request. A minor insult disguised as humour. A contradiction that leaves you wondering whether you misunderstood. Nothing large enough to justify leaving. Only enough to discover what you will tolerate. When the boundary moves, another test follows. Then another. Approval becomes conditional. Warmth appears and disappears. The person you first encountered returns just often enough to keep you searching for them. You begin adjusting your own behaviour, explaining yourself more carefully, avoiding subjects that cause conflict, trying to restore the original relationship. But the original relationship may have been a demonstration, a carefully constructed version designed to gain access. The person did not necessarily change. The strategy did. This can occur in romantic relationships, but it can also happen inside families, businesses, friendship groups, political organisations, religious movements, and criminal networks. Anywhere trust provides access, manipulation can become valuable. That creates an uncomfortable problem. Dark traits do not always produce immediate failure. Sometimes they are rewarded. Confidence can be mistaken for competence. Callousness can look like decisiveness. Manipulation can resemble leadership. A person willing to claim credit may rise faster than someone waiting to be recognised. A person without guilt may make choices others refuse to make. For a while, the behaviour can look like strength. That may be one reason these traits survive. They can work, at least temporarily, but each carries a weakness. The narcissistic person needs the image to survive. The Machiavellian must remember every version of the story. The psychopathic person may underestimate danger or overestimate their control. Relationships begin to fracture. Former allies compare accounts. Patterns emerge, and the number of people who have seen behind the performance begins to grow. Not every manipulator is exposed. Some leave behind no criminal record, no dramatic arrest, no interrogation tape. Their record is scattered across other people's lives. A ruined career, a divided family, a missing sum of money, years spent questioning memories that once seemed certain. This is why labels must be handled carefully. The Dark Triad is a research framework, not a verdict. Confidence is not narcissism. Planning is not Machiavellianism. Emotional distance is not psychopathy. And no stranger can be reliably diagnosed from a conversation, a photograph, or a failed relationship. The evidence lies in patterns. Repeated exploitation, repeated deception, repeated refusal to accept responsibility. And what happens when the behaviour is finally confronted? Do they acknowledge the damage? Do they attempt to repair it? Or does the story change until they become the injured party? One selfish act proves little. A system of exploitation reveals much more. The Dark Triad does not describe supernatural evil. It describes familiar human abilities stripped of restraint. The desire to be admired, the ability to plan, the instinct to protect oneself. None is monstrous by itself. The danger begins when other people become material, a source of praise, a route to power, a secret to store, an obstacle to remove. The most dangerous manipulator may not threaten you. They may listen. They may remember. They may become exactly the person you needed. And by the time the performance ends, they already know which version of you will be easiest to control. Narcissism gave them the reason. Machiavellianism gave them the method. Psychopathy weakened the break. And the record they leave behind is rarely written in their own pain. It is written in everyone else's. Psychopath and sociopath are often treated as interchangeable labels, but the difference between them is far less straightforward than popular culture suggests. That record is already open.